The Radio Wammo Breakfast.
Kiwi.
The sea level is rising. It is. And the island's sinking. And that's a very sad fact.
The kitchen that I had was now in the sea. It's washed away. And I was surprised to see that I have no more kitchen.
All we can continue to do now is continue repairing the seawall that is here to stop the sea from moving further inland.
Well, here's a story that you're probably not going to see on your 6 o'clock news, a story that probably wouldn't be told unless documentary makers were prepared to go out and spend the time and bring these stories to the big screen. This documentary is screening at the New Zealand International Film Festival. It is called There Once Was an Island, and it's been put together by Briar March, who joins us on the line this morning. Good morning to you, Briar.
Morning. How are you?
I'm very, very well. This story about this low-lying atoll, which is in the southwest Pacific, pretty close to Papua New Guinea. It's called Taku.
Yes, that's
Taku.
right.
The island of Taku. How did you find out about its plight and the people on the island?
Well, I mean, it's one of these very, it's so remote. I mean, not many people around the world have ever heard of this tiny little island, but I just read an article about the island that was published in a magazine in New Zealand because ethnomusicologist Richard Moyle has been studying the music for over 16 years because unlike most of Polynesia, this community still practice their traditional religion. And with that, there's a very unique dance and music culture that they practice, and it's, I guess, different from other parts of Polynesia where most people are, have converted to Christianity, and the music's very different. And so I'd heard about it through him, and I was really, really fascinated by the idea of how a small island could be an allegory for the way where, our relationship to the environment around the entire planet.
So it's only a metre above sea level,
yes.
This island, and so you originally went there to figure out, and find out more about these people, but you found that in fact that they were being victims of climate change.
Well, when I read about this story that Richard Moyle was talking about, he did mention that they were being impacted by sea level rise, and that they even were hoping for someone to come and document the island.
Yeah.
So I'd heard about it, and I thought, well, okay, this is a really interesting story. And then I found that maybe about 5 other filmmakers had tried to go there, but they'd all given up because they just decided it was too difficult. There's only 4 boat trips to the island in a year. So you can imagine that is kind of a logistical nightmare. There's no electricity there. It's just so remote.
Yeah.
So I was a little bit crazy.
How long? In order to put this documentary together, how long did you spend there?
Well, the first trip we made was I went with another filmmaker, Zane Holmes, and we spent 2 months on the island. And while we were there, we didn't know when the boat would come back.
Yeah.
So it was quite scary. And when the boat did come back, it had lost 3 of its anchors, which were all of its anchors. And we had to get on another boat, a moving boat, to jump on the boat to actually go home. And so then we stayed. When I got back to New Zealand, I spent another year researching and working on the film and trying to raise more funds to go back a second time. And so then we went a second time with a larger crew for a month. And at that time, we actually chartered our own boat because it was just too much to go on the Sun Come Up is the name of the boat.
Yeah, which occasionally comes by and drops off supplies.
Yes,
and sometimes the odd scientist as well to actually help out the community and figure out exactly what is happening to their islands.
Well, actually, that part is an interesting thing because when we first went to the island, the community mentioned that they felt that they really needed more research and sort of scientific research to understand what was going on because there's so many different factors contributing to the problems on the island and no one's really ever done any research. So it was actually me who got the scientist. So so like I basically responded to what the community had said, and for the year that I was back in New Zealand, I was looking for people to bring, and then we brought them along with us when we chartered the boat. And yeah, I mean, that was an amazing experience. Like the relationship the scientists ended up having with the community, and what the community and the scientists learned from each other was a really moving thing.
What kind of evidence did you document on film of climate change on the islands?
Well, it's a very complicated thing to say everything is to do with climate change and specifically rising sea levels. Some of the things we documented, we discovered, weren't all to do with climate change. For example, the sea walls that the islanders used to try and protect parts of the island actually making some of the erosion worse, because when you put a seawall up around a coastal area, sand gets washed back and washed off the beach. So the scientists actually pointed things like that out. But at the same time, they said, look, with sea level rise, all of these things are going to just get worse. And then in terms of seeing evidence, I mean, we saw how the taro, that is a major food source for the community, was being was dying, and mainly because of the salination in the soil.
So basically the water's bubbling up in the middle of the island.
Yeah. And then while we were there, a major flood occurred, and this is something that you'll see when you watch the film. And the scientists also said that while this flood is, you can't say that this flood is just to do with climate change. It's a 50-year flood that occurred. As sea level continues to rise, these floods will be more frequent. And, I mean, that's really scary. I mean, when we saw the devastation of this flood, and to think that, in the next 50 years, there's going to be more of them, like maybe even into the end of the century, one every year. I mean, I just couldn't imagine the impact of that. It would just be devastating.
Absolutely. And so with the backdrop to this, there's also the political situation with Papua New Guinea and about what the government wants to do with these people.
That's right, yes. So, Bougainville, which is the mainland near Taku where the islanders would be relocating to, has just come out of a civil war. I mean, for 10 years they've been fighting, and I mean, there's so much sensitivity about land as it is. So if you can imagine a whole other culture, because Bougainvilleans are Melanesian, they're not Polynesian. So I think this is the other big thing, moving one cultural group to another, that's really problematic. And then, there's not enough resources or funding in Papua New Guinea for these kinds of things. And also, I mean, the government's quite corrupt and unorganised. So, when they say they're going to do something, you're waiting for years, and then it never happens.
So really, this documentary will give people an actual real tangible taste of the effects of climate change and the reason why the world really does need to put something into action to reverse what's going on.
I think so, but I also think I really encourage people to come to one of the screenings. We're having the premiere this Sunday at 1:30 at the Sky City, and there's still tickets available. And I think one of the things that we've heard about climate change a lot, and there have been a lot of documentaries out there, with sort of scientific examples and things. But the difference about this film is that it's a character-driven film, and it really, you really get a feeling for what it's like to live on an island, and it's very much a personal kind of account on the issue, and that's like what makes it special, I think, as a film.
Well, Briar March, it is screening at the New Zealand International Film Festival. First of all, Sky City Theatre on Sunday at 1:30pm, then on Wednesday at 11:15am, then elsewhere around the country as well, and all the times are up at nzff.co.nz. Briar, thanks so much for telling us all about it.
Oh, cool. Well, lovely to talk to you.
Documentary maker Briar March.
Change comes and comes and comes. We're never going to stop change. We have to work towards improving that new lifestyle we'll be living.
I know that I won't be here, but my people are here. And they're the one that's going to suffer.
All I can do is hope and pray that we are relocated in a coastal area and together